What we're here tonight to do is to have a public hearing on the One Watershed, One Plan. And I'm going to introduce the folks that I know for sure, and that's Brian Malone, Peter Nelson from Pennington Soil and Water, and then that's Matt Fisher from Board of Water and Soil Resources, and Corey Hansen with the Red Lake Watershed District. They were all involved in this plan. And we'll get this to happen, I promise. So this process then, as I'm here to explain it, is maybe we can hit the light back there. Thanks, Matt. That's probably good right there. Several entities have combined. I'm going to stand, I guess, just it's easier for me to stand and address you all. Instead of each having their own individual plan, whether it's a county water plan, a soil and water plan, or a watershed plan, they team together for the Red Lake River itself on a pilot project under the guidance of Hauser to do one watershed, one plan. The participants include Red Lake County Soil and Water District, Pennington SWCD, West Polk SWCD, the Red Lake Watershed District, and then all the counties as well as jurisdictions that have any geography within the Red Lake River watershed. The purpose of this plan then is to take public testimony or get other sort of feedback on a draft plan which has already seen internal review and has seen a 60-day public review as well. So any feedback and questions we receive tonight will be incorporated into the final plan. What I'm prepared to give you all tonight is just a brief overview of how the plan was developed, to give you kind of a taste of what it is. I have executive summaries with me. It's a 12-page hard copy document, if you would like. And even if you don't have comments tonight, I would guess we would still take comments for another week or so before things kind of get finalized and get submitted to Hauser for final approval. And John Jensen is on the policy committee, so he knows all about this plan. As you can see in that black outline, that is the planning area. It is just the Red Lake River sub-watershed as defined here. It does not include the Thief River. It does not include the Clearwater, etc., or, quite frankly, areas upstream of the Red Lake Dam. This is how the Board of Water and Soil Resources is envisioning planning, is looking at it one watershed at a time on a smaller scale like this. Specifically, we went through, and I guess I'll just live with those, unless I can see if I bring it a little closer.
Move it the other way.
No, that gets it
You're
bigger.
gonna be closer.
Right. So we're just going to go with this. That's about as good as we're going to get tonight. Focus it in there. Across the bottom, these were kind of the building blocks of how this plan was built, where we identified issues, we prioritized those issues, we identified resources, which in our case means streams, ditches, possible wetlands, things like that. Could be land use types, prairie, ridges, beach ridges, etc. Things that we wanted to work with in this landscape. We set goals, and then we actually came up with an implementation plan and schedule that, in theory, is our recipe for the next 10 years for these different agencies to implement their work. And the goal here was to have measurable outcomes, not just to say, well, we want everything to be great, but to try and identify how great and how often, etc. We're kind of here in this very last step now, at the finish line, just presenting this to you as an organization and gaining public input as applicable. The plan is really based upon guidance provided by the Board of Water and Soil Resources. I think, Neil, you sit on the board, right?
Correct.
And ultimately, it's a prioritized, targeted, and measurable plan. Makes sense, right? I think any one of us would do our own business this way if we could. It's also based on Minnesota Rule 8410, and it's supposed to and does address a whole host of issues that soil and water districts and watershed districts are used to dealing with, not just surface water, but also groundwater, flooding, wetlands, shoreland type issues, as well as fish and wildlife habitat. It's kind of a comprehensive plan, if you will, not just focused on one particular problem with water or challenge. And all of this was guided by a 14-page document that was provided by the state. The process then, and I'm going to step through each one of these issues in more detail in a bit, was, as I stated earlier, what are the issues? That kind of goes back to what are the problems in this sub-watershed. If you don't have an identification of what your problems are, what are you supposed to work on? Resources, again, is the streams and ditches and other natural features of our landscape that we're trying to affect through our work and implementation. Planning zones, that's a concept we're going to talk about, which was, we realized that given the east to west extent, we're talking about Red Lake all the way to East Grand Forks, we broke the one watershed into 3 planning zones, an upper, a middle, and a lower, so that we could better define the unique geography and the unique types of issues that are inherent within that broad geography. Okay, once we had identified the issues and the resources, we had to prioritize, we had to rank, and ultimately we developed these measurable goals. So let me just quick step through each one of those. This is the basic plan layout, which then, again, was kind of framed up by Bowser, but our whole process is documented in that layout you see before you. First one is an executive summary. Like any good plan, there's going to be a short version that anyone can look at and hopefully glean from the entire plan what really was done here. Like I said, if you have questions, I have those to hand out. The plan itself is like literally 300 pages long, whereas the executive summary is 12 pages. So it's just a brief description and summary of the outcome of the plan. Then the plan has an introduction, which kind of gets people going, gets the juices flowing. And then we have this whole concept of the issues, okay? So what we did when we started out, we had this entire list of different issues that one might consider or concern themselves with in a watershed plan. You've got, this came up at our previous hearing, altered hydrology. What that is, that's effectively drainage, like surface ditches. It could be tile, and it could be retention, and it could be, quite frankly, buffer strips could possibly be related to that topic. So we had this entire list of issues, so that across the top we had different agencies, both local, state, and federal, who kind of voted or ranked their top issues. And we came up then with this list, and then finally 9 priority issues that the plan is attempting to address. 9 is a large number. That's what we went with in this plan. But it's already been surmised and stated that probably 9 is too many, and maybe in future plans we may just focus on 4 or 5 issues, because it gets to be so much to work on over 10 years and prioritize. So that's what it looks like, the 9 issues that were selected for this plan. Resources. This is kind of a unique situation. If you think about it, there are probably 3 kinds of resources in our vicinity. Some are pristine, very nice, and not really in need of any work or protection. Some are very average and are near what we call impairment, so they may or may not need attention. And then some are just a complete disaster and in need of a lot of work. We try to categorize our resources in terms of whether we're really going to protect something that's already good, if we're going to make something slightly better to make it good, or in the case of a stream or a ditch that was really degraded, maybe that would be a lot more work than we want to put into it. So we would kind of pour our resources and our efforts into those that we could actually get more effect out of. We didn't want to maybe spend too much time on a completely degraded stream that we have no chance of improving. So kind of built into our list of resources was that kind of a prioritization approach. What we did then is we took these priority statements and we align them with each issue. I'm just going to pick on this altered hydrology because there's a lot of drainage in this subwatershed, but you can see that the first priority statement is reduce runoff rates by targeting implementation subwatersheds with high runoff. So in other words, that's kind of an obvious statement. Where there's flooding, high runoff, erosion, or other problems, that was kind of our priority for this particular issue to take a look at and address. And you can do that through culvert sizing, you can do that through side water inlet pipes, you can do that through retention, and a whole other host, even buffer strips. And so what I just gave you was an example of best management practices that could eventually apply to that issue with that priority statement. Okay, well, how did we come up with those prioritization statements? We had an exercise, which maybe Don, I don't know if you were at this particular meeting.
Yeah, I think I was there.
This little green dot right here, this is Don.
That's our kindergarten exercise.
Well, it was actually, so we had this room full of people, probably 30 people. They all came up and they basically put a dot where what they thought was most important for that particular issue, that particular statement, and that's how we weighted everything. And it doesn't seem like science, but it actually is an effective way to get down to what people think, and so ultimately you have this prioritization.
Well, the Utilities Commission also likes dots.
Do they?
Oh, yeah. I know the dot means.
Yes, people involved. People involved. Okay, I talked about the planning zones where we have the upper, middle, and lower. For the most part, Pennington County it's in the upper and probably a little bit in the middle. We broke that further into these management areas so that as your local soil and water folks go into implementation, they actually have even more discrete areas that they're working on that they've focused in on for this plan. Because remember, it's also targeted, this plan. Targeted means, you know, hit the bullseye. That's a specific small area in the subwatershed. That's what the zones look like. And then that's the different colors. And then you can see these different numbers here just vaguely. Those are the management areas then where these geographies are further distilled so that when we do our implementation, we're really focusing on a particular resource. Okay? I know this is a lot to digest in a quick hurry, but it's all intended to get us to right here, which was the measurable goals and then ultimately implementation. So what we did then for every issue, priority, and resources, now we have suggested actions for those areas with a goal, a stated goal that we're going to try to achieve, or they're going to try to achieve over 10 years. And with a price. So in other words, there is a number associated with this plan. If we were to complete absolutely every goal, you know, there's an associated number so that they can do their planning, they can do their grant writing. And this is where the state is trying to go everywhere with these plans, is to try to get our arms around what's it going to take and how much is it going to cost. One of the unique features of this plan was we were asked to implement an app, it's called PTM app, Prioritize, Target, and Measure. It's an online web tool that was used and will be used in implementation to identify areas on the landscape that have the potential for having the greatest cost benefit. And what this map here is showing you is just an example where the red means the most reduction in sediment. What it'll do is it'll help the individual, the technician, or the other soil and water person who's looking for projects to focus on those red or orange areas. And then you couple that with landowners and money and ditch systems and all these other different layers, you can hopefully have the most impact for a particular project. And incidentally, how do these become red? They are based on the land use, the soil type, and the slope of the ground primarily as it relates to problems with land. And I would dare say that in a lot of cases, this tool actually highlights problem land that we already know about. It just kind of helps refresh the user's ability to look for those sites. Okay, the last piece of the plan then is this actual targeted implementation plan where, I guess I'll zoom right into this one. Remember, I talked earlier about a recipe. So what this does is it builds this table, which is within the plan, where for a particular management area, now, we're looking at what are we going to do to address the problem. What are we planning to do? Is it filtration? Is it storage? Is it protection? Then we have in the next column the best management practice that we're going to use to accomplish that. Is it rotational grazing? Is it drainage water management and so forth? Now this is just an example. In the plan these are all filled out. But there's an actual attempt to estimate how many of these practices are going to be implemented over 10 years. What is the cost? Who is the lead entity? And what is the time frame that this plan will be implemented over? This, if there was one key part of this presentation and this plan to understand, is this tool, this table is built out for each planning zone, and guys like Brian and Peter are going to be referring to this table on occasion, hopefully, to do their workflow as they plan forward, and also to do their grant applications, because they put a lot of work into these tables as well, so their fingerprints are all over these numbers as they try to strategize moving forward. Okay, kind of the bookend then of this plan after we went through all this process is, in the end, the plan identifies what are the programs that these entities work with. That's both the watershed and the soil and water district, and how are they going to fund things. It's amazing, if you go into this, it's actually chapter 8 of the plan, the amount of programs, the amount of things that these organizations are responsible for is pretty impressive. And in order to have a plan where they're coordinated, we had to put this all in writing. It also addresses things like how often are they going to evaluate the plan, annually, every 5 years, who's going to be the fiscal agent, who's going to manage the plan, and so forth. This is all being worked out in a memorandum of agreement between the three soil and waters and the watershed at this point. And I'm guessing there's other approvals that take place, but they're the ones that are going to actually implement. So that's the final piece of the plan. Just wanted to give you another example then for the upper zone then, which is this column here. These are all the different practices that the planning group has come up with and what they're hoping to do. And you can see here that, I just picked this out right now, rain gardens. That's like something that was put over by the Ralph, the big Ralph. They're planning, hoping to do 5 of those over the next 10 years, somewhere in the upper, and that could be at someone's home, that could be at a public facility, that could be at their office or anywhere, but they literally went through and tried to develop reasonable goals in terms of actual acres, units, feet, etc., throughout each planning zone. And this, I don't have the exact numbers at the tip of my brain here, but they're $20 to $30 million in projects in each zone for the 10 years. So there's probably, let's just use a round number, 90 million is what is projected to be budgeted for the entire Red Lake River watershed for 10 years. Do the math, that's $9 million a year in projects. That's an example, that's a goal. And keep in mind, that's going to access state and federal and potentially local funding sources. It's not just one pot of money that's going to help get that work done. There also is an appendix, so anything and everything you can ever want to know about this watershed is in the appendix, hopefully. And I guess with that, I will close just informing you that the plan and every document that was produced through the reviews and even the final draft is on the project website, which is westpolkswcd.com. If you're really interested, and you really might want to look at that on your little smart screen there. That is available as well. for your perusal and review. So that closes my presentation, and I would entertain any questions from
Okay,
the board or the public.
anybody have any comments or questions or suggestions or, it was a very interesting road. It got way more technical than I thought it could ever get.
Took us about 2 years, to be honest.
Right.
When will it be implemented? I mean, when will this, because you're still in commons phase,
This is
when
the-
will we have the final document?
This is the last step right here.
Yeah, the hope is to have it submitted to Bowser by the end of the year, and it would, in that case, go to our April board meeting, where it would be approved, and then it would come back for local
Are all,
adoption.
there's like 5 pilot projects around, right?
Correct.
So would all of them be approved at the same time then?
No,
Is that
actually, I
your
think there's a
next-
couple that are gonna go to our December board meeting,
Oh,
from what I hear. So there's a couple that are a little further ahead, but, I'm not sure where the others are at.
So spring.
Yes.
Okay. Questions, comments, anything? If nothing, this hearing is closed. We'll bring our county board back in session.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you, guys, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, pages.
sure. Do you just want one, Ken, or?